Tracy, did you say you were doing notes or?
Yes.
Okay.
I have your
Yeah.
thing. Yes.
All right. I'm going to, since we don't have Laura or Christine here tonight, I'll start things off and welcome everybody to the Wednesday, November 17th Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. It's been a couple of months since we last met. So welcome everybody. Why don't we just go around the room again for the benefit of anybody at home. So I am Matt Kasparis, Director of Parks and Recreation, and to my right.
I'm Rick Grenier. I'm the MYA liaison.
Longwoods Council Rep.
Tracy McGraw, member.
Phil Prasuski, member.
Jamie Devlin, member.
David Shaw, member.
Shannon Barnes, school board rep.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. All right, so our first order of business, as Laura announced back in September, which seems like ages ago, she is traveling now for the next 6 months, roughly. So one of the things that we have to do tonight is to elect a new chair to take the rest of the year until we do this again in June. And so at this point, I will kind of open nominations for anybody that would like to be chair. And before I do that, I will say, basically the chair works with me to set the agenda, leads the meetings, each month. And then once a year, usually it's in March, I think it is, we make a presentation, the chair makes a presentation with me to the council about kind of what this committee's been up to. So with that said, I will take nominations for chair. And you can nominate yourself if you'd like. Yes. Tracy?
I had sent you an email about this,
Yes.
but I offered
Yes.
to be chair. And Chris obviously is not here. I spoke with Chris because Chris is co-chair and I didn't want to step on any toes. Chris said, no, thank you. I do not want to be the one having to speak in public at any point in time unless absolutely positively necessary. So I did want to say that too, only because I have the utmost respect for Chris and I don't want to step.
So with that, can I nominate Tracy McGraw for chair?
Absolutely. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay. All in favor as Tracy as the new chair.
Aye.
Motion carried. 1, 2.
3, 4, 5. We're all counting. Do you count?
I don't count.
Okay.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You don't think you count? If I could just say something really quickly.
Absolutely.
I know that Laura is in New Mexico right now, and the last thing she's probably doing is watching this meeting. But she's amazing, and she's been wonderful throughout the years that I have been on the committee. She's run this very well and with kindness and compassion and welcoming people who are coming in for public announcements and especially the Eagle Scouts that come in here. She's so supportive of all of them, and I hope that I can take up that reign, at least for the next few months, if not longer. Thank you.
Okay. Are you ready to take over? Or do you want me to kind of keep going for tonight, since you're also taking minutes?
We're about to get to your long spiel, so I can introduce you if you like.
Sure. Well, we got to do minutes first.
All right, so the last minutes that we had were from the September meeting. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at those?
I move we accept as presented.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let me make sure that everybody who was here, guys. So, Jamie was an aye, David was an aye. Phil, you were an aye. Shannon, Juan,
Everybody was here.
where are you? Rick? And there I am. Okay. All right.
So,
Meeting's passed for September then.
All
All
right.
right, so now we're going to move on to the agenda for tonight. We've already done number 1. We've already approved the meetings. Matt, the
Hey,
meeting's
thanks.
yours.
Thanks. Since we're in this room tonight, rather than trying to put this up on the screen and trying to stand on the side of the TV to talk through it, This is normally what we do in October is go through the budget, which is, it's actually kind of convenient that we didn't meet in October because I finished this at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. It's not due until next Wednesday, but I got it done, so that was good. So every year, obviously, we get instructions from the town manager about kind of expectations for the year. Some of the things as we go through the budget, like you'll see on your copies, there's lots of things highlighted in yellow. Highlighted in yellow basically means there's something changed compared to the year before. But a lot of these in here are things that I don't technically have any control over, like health insurance costs and unemployment wages and, you know, those kinds of things that change every single year. So realistically, there's only really a handful of things that are changing for Parks and Rec. We're more or less level funding for this year, but we do have a few. And so what I want to do is just kind of go down through these sections, and then if you have questions, feel free to interrupt me as we go. But I'm certainly not going to go line by line because we'd be here all night. So first off, I'll just point out, so the town's agricultural commission disbanded a couple of weeks ago, and I have been asked to put together a proposal to take over. The two things they ran were the community garden at Wasserman Park and managing all of that, as well as the farmers market. And so I've been asked to put together a proposal for the council that I'm making to them in mid-December, I think, December 18th, I think, about how we do it and make that work. And so while I'll allude to some of that in here, it's not fully vetted because I haven't started working. It's a fairly recent development. I haven't fully started working on it yet. But there's some expectations. So the first kind of line item, it's the third category down, is the 8107, which is part-time wages. And the highlighted cell there is $39,143. Now, this is only overall, this line item is only changing by less than $500. But within that, there's actually quite a bit of changes. And we'll start with the kind of the first subsection, which is the park attendants. Now, a year ago, we had put in this plan to, from 2020, we saw all the trash and vandalism at Watson, and we had attendance everywhere, and we had 7 days a week at Wasserman Park, and so we put in the original plan was one park attendant 7 days a week at Wasserman Park this year, along with lifeguards. Well, we ended up not being able to get lifeguards to do weekend coverage this past year, and so we ended up hiring 2 attendants, but we had our 7-day-a-week coverage, and it worked out okay. The problem was that Monday through Friday, there just really wasn't a whole lot for them to do. From 3 to 7 at night, we might see 20, 25 people come through, and basically they were all residents. It was kind of a waste of money to have them sit there checking IDs when nobody's coming through on weekdays, And so what I'm proposing to do this year is to scale that back a little bit and focus on Friday nights, kind of 4 to 8, and then Saturdays and Sundays. We really didn't have the kind of the vandalism and issues like that we had in 2020. And so I think a lot, and camp was running too, so that in itself is kind of a deterrent versus 2020 when we weren't there. So that scales that number down a little bit. The second one is to as I mentioned, we had planned last year to do weekend lifeguards, which we couldn't get last year. We opened the summer last year with 2 lifeguards and that was just to get Monday through Friday for camp. So I could have the waterfront open for camp. And we ended up boosting the rate of pay for lifeguards from $11.42 up to $15 an hour just to get, and we managed to recruit 2 more people at that point. Although honestly, it was late in the process. By the time we got that approved to do that, it was June already, and most people had found jobs. And so, but we're keeping things at $15 an hour this year for lifeguards. Because there's still going to be a shortage, and I'm just hoping I can recruit faster than anybody else this year, starting from the beginning at that level. But again, the plan will be to go back to what we had hoped to do last year, which was 7 days a week with lifeguard coverage, plus the parking attendant, to make sure that it's only residents down there. And then the next line down, the Waterfront Director. Now, the Waterfront Director's pay is split between the day camp and the town, and the taxpayers. But when we bumped up the lifeguards, we ended up having to bump the Waterfront Director up higher because otherwise the lifeguards would have been making more, and so it just pushes everything up. The last one, and this is really the big one, is our part-time maintainer. He's part-time, he's year-round. Historically, his schedule is 18 hours a week during the school year and 25 hours a week during the summer. Now, going back to 2008, Wasserman Park used to have 1.5 full-time employees over there year-round, and when the economy tanked in 2008, that was the first two things that they cut. And it was only, I think, 4 years ago that we got the part-time year-round back. And it's okay, but it just, we're not getting things done. You know, there's always more work to be done. You know, we've got 50-year-old buildings down there. You think about here at Town Hall, there's 2 full-time guys that just do basically Town Hall, and a little bit at Watson Park, but basically Town Hall. I've got 16 buildings over there and 46 acres with 1 part-time guy, you know, and so that's tough. And so like this summer, I mean, it was constant, like, you know, we were getting, you know, like the dog park, for example, is just constantly overgrown because I can't free him up to send him to focus on it. And we, you know, we relied heavily this year on volunteers, which we were appreciative of. I think we had 3 or 4 different groups come through and do cleanups over there for us. And of course, if we take on the community garden, that's going to be need to be maintained too, and weeding and, you know, keeping the aisles clear and that kind of stuff. And so what I'm proposing to do is to raise him to 25 hours a week year round. You know, it's not ideally, again, we need full time, but I know I'm not going to get that within a single year ask. So, and I've already had some preliminary conversations with the town manager about it. So, but it's kind of put a note there so that maybe by next year we can look at moving that forward full time. But we really,
Those hours?
huh?
And he can do those hours?
And he can do those hours. Yeah, and that was one of the other troubles is he's retired from another community when he came to us. And he was okay with 25. I don't think he would want to work full time again, but at least when we had that conversation. So at least that'll give me an extra, you know, particularly during this, you know, in the summer we bring on a second full-time 40-hour a week park attendant, and whose job is to focus just on camp, and he's paid for by the camp. So this other person's free to actually do real repairs versus the other kid is doing more cleaning and, you know, that kind of thing. And so this gives us an extra kind of 7 hours a week during the school year so that we can actually make some progress on some of these other things. And so it'll go a long way towards that. Yes.
Before you go off of that, I know you have them 25 hours a week year round, but is there the potential of a seasonal maintainer for 15 hours a week, 15 to 20 hours a week? Again, because that's your peak season, and that's when your growth is happening. That's when your wear and tear is happening probably the most aggressively.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got him for 25 in the summer, and then we bring in a second kid just for the summer who's 40.
Right, but he's doing like cleaning. But I'm talking about wear and tear. I'm talking about all the overgrowth, because that's peak season where you're going to have that stuff that you are catching up to.
Yeah.
I mean, even because I was one of the volunteer groups. I know there were 2 from my company that came, and I mean, whatever we did was already back by the time, you know, the next group came through. So I mean, honestly, I see that as, again, you know, not, you know, having this person full time, capable and competent, having a support person just 20 hours a week during the summer season, you know, spring to fall, I think would be valuable. And again, you know, not to be, no pressure, Lon, but pressure. but on that note, it's again, you're not going to be paying benefits on that because it's seasonal part time as well. So you're not going to have that incremental hit of, you know, like retirement and all that stuff.
Possibly. We used to have a second summer kid that was paid out of the same line item, and probably 3 or 4 years ago, I was directed to move it into camp, and so camp had to pay for it. And so I'm not sure I can cover a second one in camp.
No, I would want to do that anyway because you can't do the dog park. You can't. That would.
Right,
that-
but
right,
it's
it
just that's how they pay for it,
Right.
versus the taxpayers paying for it. So
yeah, but the camp, the
I
garden,
can
all
broach
that
the
stuff.
subject again and see whether there's an opening to that, but I don't know.
Yeah, well,
It would be nice, but I don't know.
from a committee
Yeah.
perspective, I would just say, and I don't know if it helps you, I would make a motion that we support
Okay.
the request for a 20-hour per week seasonal during
Yeah.
May to September or June to August, whatever you need.
The other problem is I don't know if I'll get somebody that only wants to work 20 hours a week.
Yep.
But we can try.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Can I ask a quick question just for clarification?
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is the normal guy is gonna be bumped up to 25 hours?
Year
And that's
round.
basically that's year round?
Year round.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we also have someone who is also gonna be working extra, for 15 or so hours a week?
Yeah, I was saying 20 hours a week just for the peak season.
Just for summertime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I made a motion just so we could have
Yep.
like a board position on that, a committee position to help that. So I
Okay.
don't know if you can get a second for me, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let's go ahead and clarify what the actual motion is to make
So
it.
the motion is to, as a committee, Parks and Rec committee, have a position of support to request a second part-time position for Wasserman for peak season, not to exceed 20 hours a week.
Okay. And then we have a second that came from Phil? Okay.
Is that
all-
something useful for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing
Yeah.
the garden, I'm hearing that, if if the volunteers can't make it next year, that's work that's not getting done, and you can't count on volunteer groups to come when you need them to. I mean, we came right before camp opened, and so, but the thing is, next year we might not be able to come before camp opens.
Right.
So those are things that you need
Yep.
those people to do before you get people in the camps and stuff. Peak season.
Go ahead. Lon?
Yes, Lon.
How many weeks for,
In the summer, kids, it's 12, usually works 12 weeks.
12 weeks? Thank you.
Mhm.
Might be important to know.
It's gonna create that number. Yeah,
Yeah.
you bet.
Yeah.
Represent- 1 second.
Yes.
Thank you. Just curious, Shannon, do you see this as, well, ideally, if the full-time position evolved down the road,
Mhm.
this would go away?
No, I don't, because the thing is, I still see it being recurring, and he's taking on new responsibilities with the Agricultural Commission. And so, you can put that extra work if for some reason, that 25-hour-a-week person, maybe he could, check in on Veterans Park or something like that, so he could float to other parks in the area to make sure that there's no work to be addressed there too. So even if it does go full-time, I still see, you've been working on a wing and a prayer for a real long time, since before your
Yeah.
arrival.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember back in the day. So
Uh-huh. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Okay,
Other-
so we have a motion by Shannon, we have a second by Phil, all in favor?
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Motion-
maybe that's the garden is how we pay for it. That's my condition for taking on the garden, I don't know. We'll see. That's tomorrow's project is to start writing that proposal. So, where was I? All right, jumping down to page 3, account 8331, which is about 2/3 of the way down the page, which is the maintenance of buildings and grounds. And overall, we're looking at it for about a $6,000. And again, we always get this instruction was, level fund as much as possible unless you really, really need it. So right here, we're looking at a $6,010 increase. As I said, we have 16 buildings over there at Wasserman Park. We have 46 acres of land to maintain. This year, that line item that's in there now, it's labeled in yellow as 15,000, but this past year it was 10. It was just over 10 for that particular line item. That money was spent by October for the entire fiscal year. We just had a slew of. At one point, and I think I talked about this in either August or September. I had 3 building roofs that needed to get fixed. I had 2 different failed septic lines. I've got, again, 50-year-old buildings falling apart, and we had vandalism at one point. Somebody shattered one of the backboards. And of course, the cost was just below the threshold of where insurance covers it. So that, it wiped me out. So it's like, at this point, I can't do any other projects for this year. So that's part of the problem. Again, we're anticipating expenses with, taking over the community garden, which are kind of still be determined at this point. But beyond that, for some reason, finance has started charging out of this line item. They started charging us for the porta potty at Watson Park. I have no idea why, and I have not been able to get a solid answer, but I was told that I should plan to keep it in there. So I'm raising the budget at least to cover that, which was about $1,800 a year for that one stupid porta potty. And then down under dumpsters, we kind of had the same thing. The dumpster at Veterans Park suddenly started getting charged to me out of this line item, and I have no idea why. But again, and so, between those things, we're trying to just bump things up a little bit. So we'll be a little ahead of where we were minus these unexpected expenses, but still asking for a little bit more money on that side of things. Flipping to page 4, there's a really simple one, which is education and training. This is basically conferences for James and I. Up to this point, like I have professional certifications to maintain. Like I need a minimum of 10 hours a year. And every 3 years I have to have, 30 hours, obviously. But in the last year, James actually got his professional certification too. So now both of us have certifications to maintain. And so we've basically doubled from 500 to 1,000 just to give us these opportunities so that we can maintain our certifications. So quick, simple, easy. I will point on this page, just below this, at the bottom of this page is the MYA, and you'll notice the column is still blank. And the reason it's still blank is because the MYA directly submits their budget into the finance director, and he fills in their request numbers. And then once the budget's all set, then I get a final copy back with what the final number is. So then, let's see, that. Down next page, down under recreation programs, there's only really one change, which is, again, in anticipation of taking on the farmer's market. We added in a new line item, which is funding to cover costs associated with that. Now, what I've been told historically is the farmer's market was not well advertised, even though it was 24 weeks. And just, they'd only have 5 vendors and just whatever. So one of the things I think I'm going to propose to the council next month is starting smaller, but moving it from vault storage where it's been to here. So because it's the same night as a summer concert. So I'm already here and run it for the 8 weeks of the concerts. You've got we take up part of the parking lot and, hey, come get your farmer's market kind of stuff, and then come down and enjoy the concerts. You can kind of get food and whatever. It won't be 24 weeks because, quite honestly, I don't want to sit here for 24 weeks on Wednesday nights all year long. And so that's kind of where I'm thinking to start. Now, normally right now with the concerts, if we get rain, we generally can move indoors to the adult community center. But if I've got the farmer's market and the concert, I can't fit them both indoors there. And so we'll probably be looking at having to start renting the school cafeteria again, which we try not to do just because there's a cost associated with that. So some of that money is in anticipation of rainy weeks. And as we saw this summer, I mean, it rained like every other day. So now when I get to that presentation with the council, if they say, well, we really want, 6 months still, then I might rethink that plan a little bit. And one, I'd probably would put in a request to add a part-time staff member to staff it, so it's not me sitting there on Wednesday nights for 6 months. And I would probably up the funding for, school usage and, that kind of stuff too, just as a way to offset some of that stuff. So Now, with all of this and anticipating some of these new things, one of the things I'm trying to do is shift some of my workload onto James. And but in order to do that, I got to take some of his off, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the camp budget. Trying to just kind of shift some of that down. But I mean, I was averaging last year between 60 and 70 hours a week as it was. And even now, I mean, camp ended 3 months ago, but I've worked 9 out of the last 12 weekends, I think. So, I mean, it's just on top of the 40. So it's getting a little tiring. So trying to stop doing that, you know. Anyway, so.
Matt, was it completely run, the farmer's market, by volunteers previously?
It was. And even like, for example, the agricultural commission, the guy had like a tractor, or like a real tractor, to come and plow the field and mapped out all the grids. And I don't own a tractor, you know. Now DPW, I think they have a tractor, but they don't have the right tools yet necessarily, although supposedly they're in process of buying one anyway. But again, there's going to be some expenses there that I don't fully know what they are just yet. So.
Well, that's the community garden, right? So
For the
it's kind
garden,
of
right.
separate from the farmer's market.
Right, and separate from the farmer's market. And again, that was volunteer as well.
So why are you trying to take all this on?
Because
completely on
they
yourself?
asked me to write a proposal to take it on.
No. So the rest of my comment was, why are you trying to take it on completely yourself, opposed to thinking about how you can put some volunteers
Yeah.
in front of that?
I don't know. I mean, the thought process was if it's just the 8 weeks of the summer, I'm already here at the concerts. I actually really like the concerts because it's time. I get a chance to kind of sit back and not have to think about it. And then, you know, by the time I leave the concert that night, I've sent myself 15 emails that are going, oh, I got to do this and this and this and this. Oh, what about this? And this is a great idea. And somebody has this, you know, I do a lot of public interaction at the concert, you know, which is kind of the fun part of the job, really. And so if I move the farmer's market here, I'm already here. But again, if we're looking at a bigger, you know, April to October or whatever it was they were doing before, then I can't, you know. So, yes.
Well, I have a couple questions on the farmer's market, just because of the proposal, not because it's a budget question, but logistically, if you're trying to move the farmer's market here and the farmer's market's 3 to 6 and the concert's at 7.
I'm changing the time.
Oh, good. Okay.
My,
5 to 7?
Probably 5 to 7 is what I'm
Yeah, because
thinking.
I was going to say, because town hall's open until 4:35.
Right, so
don't know
I
where-
can't
yeah, you
block
can't
off
use
the parking lot until.
Okay.
And what I'd really like to do actually is the front corner of the parking lot, so it's visible here on Babusick Lake Road.
Yeah.
And take those. Let me think. There's 1, 2, 3. There's probably 15 spaces there, and kind of cone that whole section off, and so it's nice and visible. Because I couldn't fit everybody down in the park. Plus, it doesn't give you that added visibility anyway. So, that's the thought process in my head at the moment.
Gotcha.
Yes, Len.
Shannon raises the right question. The ebb and flow of parked vehicles, given a court date.
Yeah.
Thank you. Given a court date, given whatever happens, and again, town hall being open till 4:30, we have employee parking,
Yeah.
so we'll be looking for
nightmare.
some definition.
Yeah.
Yep. And honestly, is there a reason, because I was going to ask this, is there a reason why Watson Park wouldn't be viable, being just across the street and you're close, but, you know.
The problem with Watson Park, and we have this problem to do any event over there, is parking. You know, if, say you have 20 vendors, you've now taken up half the spots just for the vendors at the farmer's market. You could and then if people are out there playing volleyball or a picnic, they're very frequently is stuff going on there every night of the week, and there's not a whole lot of parking over there as it is. And so now you're shifting everybody back up here to walk, and will they walk from here over there or from the high school over there? Maybe they will, I don't know. That's my problem with Watson Park. And again, the thought was to tie it into the concerts because they're already here for the concert. Then it draws more people to the concert as well as draws people the reverse way to the market because they're kind of coming for two different persons going, oh, that's here too, cool, and right. Versus vault storage is, out of the way. I mean, and it'd be the same reason why I wouldn't want to do it at, say, Wasserman, because again, it's out of the way, and people will come there for a specific, like when we do Halloween, but not for, I don't think they would come over there for just a farmer's market. So, like I said, I'm still working on that proposal, and I'm not sure what that's going to look like just yet, but.
Visibility thing is really important. The farmers market is very visible in the fall. So you can already go, oh, farmers market, see what they got, right? So having it at Washington, like, how many people drive by there and you can't see them.
Right. Oh, you turn on your mic, Phil.
Sorry.
So I have a question for you, Matt, and it kind of goes off of Jamie's question to you. How are we getting volunteers for the farmer's market before?
Realistically, it was the agricultural committee, but it was Bob McCabe who was originally the head of the agricultural committee, and he's no longer, he left, and then there was two other members that left, and so they were down to a committee of two people, and they kind of said, it's, it's not worth it for us to go through all this hassle for two of us. And so I think it would have to be, I don't want to be chasing volunteers. I'd be probably looking for staffing if I needed to do it longer. But again, like I said, the thought was if it's here, then I'm already here for 8 weeks, every week anyway. But if it's longer, then I'm going to need staff to cover it because I can't.
We also look at groups for volunteer staffing. I mean, like
Right.
Senior Center. We know that the Lions Club is here all the time helping us out with other things, but Rotary Club.
Yeah, but I mean, I even like, and I'll use Halloween for last week. We've rescheduled Halloween as an example. I mean, it was like pulling teeth this year to get volunteers. I mean, going back 2 or 3 years ago, we'd have 15 or 20 kids like from the high school, and I got 3 this year, and we were appreciative of what we got, and we made it work, but it's been really tough to get volunteers lately with COVID and all that. So I don't know how that's so I'd rather, and I don't want to spend my week going, oh, shoot, this group just dropped out on me. Now I got to go find somebody else to cover tomorrow. But again, the question, the bigger question really is do we do just the 8 weeks, which is easy enough to manage, or do we try to do the whole summer, or which is what most other places, most other farmers markets, and the ones I know of are Milford, which is privately run. Keene has one. Sunapee has one that's privately run. Lebanon has one that's run by the town, and theirs is big. They even take like the SNAP benefits cards, and they've got all kinds of stuff. Salem has one that's privately run that's big. And so it's like it could go really well, or it could. I don't know. So I'm not there yet on knowing the answer to that. That's my task for the next. That's tomorrow's task, in fact. Now that the budget's largely done. So anyway, we'll keep moving on here. And so we talked about the farmers market. Cruising through here. Flipping down to page 6, which is the next page. Just like MYA, the Adult Community Center line item is still blank because the board for the community center submits their own budget number. Even though it falls under my jurisdiction, I guess you would call it, I don't have any operational what's of MYA or of the community center. So that's just for your own note. And then, is that the last main thing? And then the next page, the last thing I didn't highlight it, but it's the infrastructure, which is just to reiterate, which is what we talked about in September, which is we have 2 projects we're pushing forward for this year. One is I have 5 building roofs to replace at Wasserman Park. It was only supposed to be 3 because we were going to take down 3 buildings originally, and then a year and a half ago, a tree fell on one of them. The insurance ended up covering the cost to repair 2 of the 3, and so it was like, oh, let's keep the building. We got a brand new roof now. The problem with that is we forgot last year to put the roofs back in the building because the other buildings still needed the roofs. So I've got 5 roofs to do next year, and we'll obviously get a better price if we do them all at once versus one this year and one next year and the one, and they all need to be done. So before they start leaking. And then the last one is the irrigation proposal for Wasserman Park. I did meet with the town's irrigation company, Scott Courier, in September, and he's been kind of swamped end of year, and as most contractors are. And the warehouses are will only hold their prices for 2 weeks, and so I'm still waiting on a number. This number was a number I got from another community that put in irrigation on one of their fields pre-COVID. So this number could be really high, it could be really low. Now, I talked to Scott today, and he tells me he's doing the last, shutting off the last irrigation line tomorrow or Friday. So he should finally have a number for me, a working number that I can go into the budgets with next week, by Monday. So this number I'm hoping will go down, but I don't really know just yet. So I'm going with the number that I have at the moment. So those will be our 2 projects for next year. And then obviously I had shared with you last time the years 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are down the road, obviously. So that's the taxpayer funded side of the budget. The other side of the budget is the next page, starts on the next page of the packet. And this is the program side. And for those, since we have a lot of kind of new committee members here, I'm going to just kind of talk about the process a little bit. So the town charges us kind of an administrative fee called the director's salary allocation. It's not necessarily my salary per se. It's basically all these programs take up time from HR and payroll and finance and processing money and all those things. And so the town has this big, long, kind of convoluted formula that they work out and say, okay, you're using X dollars worth of services from payroll and HR and finance and all that sort of stuff. And every year I get an email from the finance director who says, okay, this year you owe us X. And I have to, when I figure out kind of the program side of things in the budget, I have to figure out how I'm going to pay for X. So this year, X is $57,994 that we have to basically give back to the town. And which isn't bad. It's only a $470 increase compared to last year, or what last year's would have been. So that wasn't too bad, but some years we've had jumps that are like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and it's like, okay, now what? So before COVID, the way that we would figure out how we were going to kind of divvy up that $57,000 is we would kind of take the 8 or 9 largest programs that we run. And these were the programs that always ran. So it was camp. It was the 3 camps. It was swimming lessons. It was tennis. It was, we did our murder mystery for several years in a row. We did, we were doing, wilderness first aid courses, that were doing really well and generating a lot of revenue for us, So it was things that we were confident that would run and could eat these costs, rather than trying to, because there's pre-COVID, we were running 250 or 300 programs a year, but 90% of them are, either independent contractors that we might make, the class is $100 and we're making $10 a kid, so we might make $100 on that one class, and that's it. We're not making $1,000 on that class. versus something like school vacation week where we do make, usually $1,000 or $1,500, or Wilderness First Aid usually generates a couple $1,000s. But we didn't charge it off to everything because there were so many unknowns, like bus trips, for example. It's always kind of hit or miss. Is the bus trip going to run or not? So you can't say, okay, bus trips, we need you to generate $5,000 because one year you might and one year you might not, And obviously in the last year and a half, we kind of lost everything. And so, the last 18 months, like I said, we lost 90% of our programs, and 7 out of the 9 programs that usually pay for that $57,000 didn't run last year. And so we went, okay, how do we do that this year? How do I figure out when I don't have kind of that reliability necessarily anymore? Somewhat. Camp didn't run in 2020, but it did run this year. And so I have, feel pretty good about where we are on the camp budget. And our summer stage ran this year. But we really just started with kind of running in-house programs, Parents' Night Out, and we did a little bit of School Vacation Week last year, but we lost money on it last year because we just didn't have the numbers. But this fall we're doing better, and things are starting to take off because people are getting excited about signing up for things again. But it's a lot of, I can't count on the things that I normally count on. To generate the revenue that usually, and I'll use Wilderness First Aid as an example. I had my summer camp nurse was an instructor for Solo to teach the Wilderness First Aid. So I was paying him his hourly salary, and then I pay Solo the licensing fee for the books and the cars and all that. And I would make, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, actually we did last year, contracted out, we ran 8 class. Whoa. We ran 8 of those classes, but they were all contracted out. So instead of making, $8,000, I made $3,000. And so it's a little hit or miss. So this year, because I don't have kind of the reliability that I normally did, what we kind of did, and I talked to finance director today, was, because I have kind of good reliable numbers on our camp programs. And camp's what pays the bulk of that $57,000 anyway. We've kind of kept that number where it was, and I've kind of have a blanket. Every other rec program collectively has to generate the remainder. So, so in this case, camp has to pay. Hold on, let me find the number. I didn't bring the printout. Hold on 1 second. It is, director allocation is 52 and 52 is, so basically between the 3 camps that we run, 53,000 is going, is paid from camp, is paying for that director allocation, and the remaining $4,100 I have to figure out how to make up between now and June. And again, we're off to a fairly good start this fall, but yeah, I got $4,000 to make sure I'm generating this fall and winter and next spring. It's a little weird how it's done too, because our camp budget runs on a different cycle than everything else, because we take money for camp in January and we're paying out through all the summer. I actually just paid the last camp bill last week. And so we kind of closed the books on camp, and so when we close the books on camp, I send him that kind of final confirmation. Okay, you're taking X dollars from camp, that $53,000. All the other programs kind of runs on the normal fiscal year, so it runs July to June 30th. So I have until June 30th to make up the $4,000. So it's just we'll get there. If you see me in May and I'm pulling what's left of my hair out, then, we'll see. But we're okay so far. So far, so good. Yes?
Thanks. So it seems like this is all just focused on the expenses, which you were just talking about, the
Yep.
kind of the P side of the P&L.
Yeah.
So do you have to submit a profit side of this
I
budget
actually
as well?
don't. I just have to, when I go into the council, we'll go over and talk about the profit side as part of my budget presentation. So, camp, the way I've got, Nanticoke and Trek are combined into one budget. We used to keep them separate, but realistically, like, the Nanticoke director oversees the Trek program, so it's a subset of it. So we decided it made a lot more sense just to merge them into one. But, so our total expenses to run Nanticoke for 9 weeks next summer is going to be $294,000, including the the 52 grand for that salary allocation. We are going up on camp. Cost of camp is going to have to go up this year. Looks like $15. So from 240 to 255, which should bring in, at this point, we're looking at about 303 is what it should generate if we get the attendance numbers that we expect to get. So we feel comfortable about that number, and it gives us a little bit of a cushion, obviously, if things don't go the way we want them to do, or, if like this past summer, one of our challenges is we ended up raising the pay on lifeguards, on the Waterfront Director. Then we actually ended up having to raise the pay on the cook because the lifeguards were suddenly making more than the cook who had been there for 11 years. But then we also had, beside that, it was just big domino effect. And so, like, the camp, it was like half the positions ended up going up in pay just because we went up on the lifeguards, but we had to do it. 4 was the bare minimum to run lifeguards for camp and have swimming. And even last summer, it was like we had a couple of weeks where I was down. I had one of my guards got injured, and so I was down to 3 at one point. And so I can only have 75 people in the water with 3 guards. And camp comes first. So we literally had days where James and I were standing down there at the waterfront going, I'm sorry, the waterfront's full right now. You're going to have to wait. And they didn't like that when it was 95 degrees out, and so, we hopefully won't have to do that this year, but it was what we had to do last summer to get the staff, to get the guards. So
I have one more extremely naive question.
Yes,
to ask.
that's okay. This is, again, a lot of you weren't here a year ago when we did this, so.
Yeah, and is it normal for Parks and Rec not to have to submit a revenue side to help offset?
Yeah.
That's kind of common practice?
Yeah, the council, I'll usually go through it with the council when I make that budget pitch, so they hear it, and I'll usually have PowerPoint and all that kind of stuff, but
So
it's
are you
not
just
as
a straight up
specific.
cost center?
Yeah.
Is that how this
Yeah,
is
exactly.
looked at?
It's a straight up cost center, exactly.
Nice. All right.
From budgeting, you really have to look at costs because we have to basically set the tax rate based on what the output is. We can't guarantee the income. So what happens is it goes to like a general fund at the end of the year. And then, the council would, like for the school district at this point by law, 100% of what's in the general fund on June 30th gets paid back to the taxpayer on July 1st. The council and their governing structure has a little more latitude. They can put it in surplus to do things like levelize the tax rate, all that. But the school can technically do it. It requires a vote of the people, but we wouldn't be the agents to expend as the school board. It would be the Department of Education in Concord. So that's why we never have done it.
Right.
But they are the agents to expend. So if they did retain the surplus from, say, the revenue that comes from these different departments, they can use it. So if an expense comes up that would spike your tax rate, they would go into that bucket to levelize it. And that way you don't get that dip and spike every year with your tax rate based on revenue and expenses. So
And-
it's your stabilizer.
I've been on appropriations committees in Massachusetts, so
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
it's
It must
very
be done
different.
a little different there. So
Yeah.
Different breed
I
of
just
cat.
wondered on the,
And
the
so
whole
we-
P&L piece kind of threw me for a second.
So we have one other tool that works, and you may have dealt with it in Mass as well, is we have what's called a recreation revolving fund. So in a sense, it's almost like a private business. Basically, money comes in and money goes out of that same account. The downside of that is has to be money in the account to pay those bills. And so if I suddenly get to week 8 of camp and I've run out of money because we didn't collect enough and I've hired too many staff, they're going to say, okay, send everybody home, you're out of money.
So you in charge of managing that cash flow
Yeah.
for that?
So one of my weekly tasks literally every Monday, I will go through and look at revenue collected and all that and make sure. And I, we had a couple of weeks this summer where I was worried about it. And we had to scale back a little bit, okay, you're going to be 37 and a half hours this week instead of 40 at camp, and, that kind of thing, just to, to get it through there a little bit. But we try to give everybody 40. We usually can do it, but like I said, sometimes we, but the burden falls on me to make sure I have that cash flow in there. So, and, again, pre-COVID, when I've got 300 other programs running, I have a little bit more of a cushion than I have this last year, So this year it's been a little more white knuckled, and so yeah, we're okay. So that's kind of how that works. The last page is just the 1 week theater camp that we run. So when it's kind of interesting. So when the town took possession of Wasserman Park in 93, part of the deed transfer says that the town has to do a public performance in the park once a year. It's actually written into the deed. Now, I don't know that there's anybody that's ever going to question it, but it's technically in the deed. And so one of the ways that we had done that was we started doing this 1 week theater camp. I have somebody that's a teacher from Milford that comes and runs this 1 week camp, but and in the theater, and we open it up to parents and the camp kids, and usually and anybody else that wants to see it. But it's kind of a pain in the butt because it's getting 4 staff on and hiring all these supplies and everything for a week, and it's like you get them on and okay, it's time to take you back off again, and but it is what it is, and it fulfills that obligation. So and people like it, so it does well every year. So that's that. But so like I said, normally we would have 8 or 9 different things in here that would all be spelled out the same way these ones are of all these other programs, to show how we're going to divvy out that whole $59,000. This year I don't have the whole. I'm short 4,000 that I've basically got to make up this year and figure out how to make up from our other rec programs, which I think we can do, but it's a work in progress this year. That's right. A big one, right. All right, that's that, yeah.
All right, so next on this is old business, and Christine is conveniently not here, so I guess I'll take care of the dog park. Christine and I actually talked about this. We have some water issues. I know that's a big shock to everyone who knows about the dog park. There's a lot of runoff that's coming down from the top of the dog park, so there's these little hills and valleys all the way down, ankle breakers we call them.
Okay.
So what we're talking about is possibly getting some fill, hopefully clean fill, from the town.
Okay.
And obviously we need it to be, when I say clean fill, it has to, no garbage, no glass, no, to help kind of smooth that out a little bit. And then we need to do a little bit of fundraising so that we can hopefully get some playground mulch in. And because right now everything basically from the top of the dog park is all dirt. The last thing that we are now starting to see a problem with is the flooding issue that we have where the dog park on the large side starts to level off. In the wintertime, it becomes the Wasserman skating rink. And certain dogs like to grab a hold of parts of people and drag you across them, which makes it very fun. But right now it's actually a mud pit.
Okay.
Great for labs, bad for little dogs. So we have ideas on what to do. We're just not really sure we're going to be able to raise enough to do it. But we need some kind of the idea of a drainage system, whether it's a pipe or something that goes basically from the double gate that's halfway down the fence, and it kind of goes slight diagonal down towards the slough.
Yep.
That's where all the water collects, and of course that poses the problem in spring for water and ice in the wintertime. So we're trying to come up with some kind of an idea to present for that, and also getting some pricing. And I would like to see if maybe some of the local contractors might be interested in doing a little bit of digging and a little bit of piping, especially while it's still soft and muddy. It would be great for this year, but if nothing else, at least for next year.
All right, yeah, let me talk to DPW about certainly the fill and maybe even see if I can get the town engineer to come over if she's not swamped, to see if she has ideas on how to, I mean, water has been the bane of our existence over the whole year. I mean, the amount of rain, I mean, the entire Park Road is shot, and needs to be replaced. It's all washing out. I mean, I walked the park tonight, in fact, and before I came over here, and the trail from the sports field down to the beach is gone again. I can't tell you how many times we fixed that this year, and it's just the amount of rain we had this year was just incredible. So, yeah, I don't know.
As far as the rest of the dog park goes, it's great. It's being used quite a bit. I don't know, and I apologize for this, who the last group came in to do cleaning, but wow. There are no weeds anymore. It looks wonderful. It's all cleared out. Was that, Shannon, was that your group?
Yes, it was.
Was it,
Yeah.
that was Connection 2. I was Connection 1 in June,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it was.
There you
Okay,
go.
so connection 2?
Yeah,
Well,
the
thank
other
you.
Connection team, I'm not sure which department, to be honest, but I'll hunt them
Please.
down when I go to the office tomorrow.
We would like to do one more cleanup before the first major snow. We know where the first snow is going to just melt anyway, but we need to do a major cleanup before the first snow, the last of the remnants of, and get rid of the old toys so that the toys are not buried underneath the snow over the winter. Other than that, we're in pretty good shape. The fence and everything else is in good shape, so we're just going to work on some fundraising, and Matt has given us some suggestions for that, so we just need to kind of process our way through it. All right. And back to Matt, Director's Report.
It's the Met Show. All right. So, Wasserman Park Beach Project, we just heard from the contractor yesterday. They finally got the materials in to start on the dredging. And so they're looking hopefully at the first week of first week of December, to start on the dredging portion of that beach renovation project. And again, for the benefit of those at home or those that don't remember the conversation, basically we're going to take the perimeter of the H-shaped dock, and everything inside that perimeter is going to get dredged out, all the mud and the muck, and make it just nicer to swim in. And then my guess is probably the shoreline portion of it will probably be in the spring, I'm guessing, based on, unless we get no snow this winter and it stays warm or something. But my guess is that portion of the project will be done in the spring. We had a couple of office improvements done recently. We had our roof replaced on my office, which was good. It was 25 plus years old and showing its wear, and they start pulling all the shingles off, and you're just looking at the plywood, and it's just like, ooh, okay, good thing it hadn't started leaking yet, but it was really close. So we got that done, and then we actually had also put out to bid an ADA ramp for my office, which is something we've needed forever and just have never had the funding to do. And so that bid came in and was something we could afford to do. We were afraid that was going to come in too high like everything else. And they're hoping to start that maybe next week. So that will be good and brings that side of things up to compliance. The delayed Halloween party and fireworks display was last Saturday, yeah. I don't know, the days just kind of blurred lately. But last Saturday, the 30th, the original event date got rained out. I mean, it was pouring, And we had this big, long conversation and debate. It was like, do we move part of the event to Sunday, do it before trick-or-treating, and then do fireworks by themselves the following week? No, because nobody's going to come a week later just for fireworks probably. And so we moved everything. And we ended up having 30 vendors businesses and community groups set up games and activities. We had 800 plus people for the Halloween party, which is pretty good for us. And then we ended up having probably another 200 or 300 that came in just for the fireworks. So it was over 1,000 people combined. I mean, and most of the people that were there for the Halloween stayed. So it was really quite the show, especially when you have no obstructions. A few of them went off a little lower than they were supposed to go off, and that was a little, little touch and go. But it was a really nice show. We did post pictures and a couple of video clips on the Facebook page if you saw them. That event was officially the last event being done by the 275th Anniversary Committee, so I can kind of put that to bed. We did 32 events this year for the 275th. Technically, we've still got a couple of minor things to do. We had been doing these photo displays, these art gallery things here in Town Hall, and the Historical Society had been the ones putting them together, and they just get not here, they're out in the hallway. And they just got really busy from kind of July, August, September, October. And so he's got like 3 that are at the printers now. So we'll have kind of December, January, and February, those will get put up. But officially we're done with events. And like I said, I can kind of put that to bed, which is nice because that took up kind of an inordinate amount of my time this last year. But it was good to get it out, and I think people learned a lot and learned some history, and so that was all good. We didn't do everything we wanted to do this year, but just with COVID, we got done quite a bit for that. And back to Halloween, just a special thank you to Rick and Tracy for volunteering with us that day. As you saw, we were a little short on volunteers, and especially with the rescheduled date, we were a little short. So I appreciate that. So lastly, just kind of we've got several events coming up. They're not all on the agenda here, but this Saturday is our 5th annual turkey scavenger hunt. Basically, we hide these turkey cutouts all over town. And we have a scavenger hunt clues, and kind of clue 1 leads to clue 2 to 3 and 4, but everybody's going in. It starts in from a different starting point, so they can't just follow the people in front of them or whatnot. And when they collect all 12 clues, then they have like an unscramble that they have to solve. The first 3 families that come back get a 18-pound turkey for Thanksgiving, and we've done this for 5 years now. We've got, I think, about 30 people coming so far for Saturday right now. So, it's just a fun little free, it's a low cost. It's $10 a family. Something that we started doing a few years ago that people seem to enjoy. So, coming up in 2 weeks is our holiday blood drive, which is in partnership with the Lions Club. And we do several of these a year. Obviously, there's been a constant need for blood donations. And, holidays is always certainly a good time to do that. So Wednesday, December 1st, it's 10 to 3:30 at Waterfront Park in the function hall. They are giving out, if you go and donate blood, they are giving out a $10 Amazon gift card. So that's kind of nice. And so we're taking appointments for that now. You can do it. The link is on our website to get to the Red Cross site to actually register, or you can call us and we can register you. But that is the first.
Hey, Matt, you want to just kind of give them a background on the last one we had in September?
So yeah, we did one in September, and it ended up getting too hot in the function hall. It was like an Indian summer kind of day, and they shut us down because people just weren't bleeding well, and so we only got through like a third of the donors, and the building's not air conditioned. I mean, we actually put like I went and grabbed my window ACs and put them up, and fans circulated, and just wasn't enough, and it just got too hot. We had somebody pass out, and so it's like, okay, so fortunately we have heat for the winter, and shouldn't be a too hot issue, so we should be good for December. But
The sad part is we have people sitting there waiting their turn, and we just said, sorry, you got to go home. I've been here an hour.
It is what it is, but beyond my control. Someday maybe we'll get AC in the function hall, but that's another problem for another day. Yeah, yeah. And then the annual holiday parade returns this year in its kind of traditional format, which is Sunday, December 5th. The parade kicks off at 3 o'clock. From Common Shopping Plaza by Tractor Supply. It takes usually it's about 45 minutes for the parade to get from Tractor Supply to here at Town Hall, which leads right into the tree lighting at down here at Abbey Griffin Park. So about 3:45, and we've got the high school band playing. We've got Broadway Band performing. We've actually got the Merrimack Concert Association singing. The Girl Scouts are giving away cookies at the tree lighting, and I think there's going to be some other things that are still kind of in the works, and I'm drawing a blank on what they are. But so that event, will be back and usually draws 500-600 people to the tree lighting, plus however many are out on the parade route. I am in need of volunteers if anybody's available that day, kind of 1:15 to 3:15 at the Common Shopping Plaza, which is kind of helping getting the floats in line. It's about 2 hours of, it's not a big parade. It's not nowhere near as challenging as 4th of July. It's usually like 15 or 20 floats versus 60 or 70 or 80. But you don't have to let me know tonight, but if anybody's available, I could use the help. Lastly is school vacation week will be running again. We have, kind of a wide variety. I got my camp staff coming, some of my camp staff coming back to work that week of December 27th to the 31st. Kids can sign up by the day. It's 8 to 5. They get fed lunch as part of the fee. It's $45 for the day, or if there's a sibling, the sibling pays $40. So not bad for 9 hours of childcare with lunch, and outdoor activities and games and crafts and that kind of stuff all week long. So we are taking registrations. We're moving along. Yes.
So you're going to have the camp go till 5 o'clock New Year's Eve?
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll see how many stay that long, but yes.
Okay.
So just the way the calendar fell, and I don't know if anybody will stay, if people will stay that long or not, but we're going to theme, obviously we'll do some New Year's in the day type activities that day, and I've got decent numbers. It's not my highest. My highest day is Wednesday and Thursday right now, but there's a decent number for Friday too. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out when all is said and done. But yeah, and that's all I got. I'm done.
All right, so now we're going to organization reports. Maureen, Senior Citizens Club.
Hi, I made it. My teacher let me out. I was at the high school playing my ukulele.
Okay.
Lousy, though. Well, the seniors had a bad day, I guess. We lost our president. Bruce Rasmussen passed away. He was going to retire, but I guess he really retired. Oh, God. And we have a blood drive on the 7th at the John O'Leary Center. And then next week, we're having our trip to the Yankee Candle. And then we're going to have our Christmas dinner for the seniors on the 11th. So other than that, they started opening up the building from 1 to 3 on Thursdays. So people that really don't have anything to do can get together and play games or talk or whatever they want to do. It's just an open house type thing. And that way people will get to see the building itself.
Yeah.
And I guess I haven't been going because I'm just a busy person. I just don't. So, but it's turning out fine. So, but it's sad that he's gone. He was a good president. So.
Now
but
they've been meeting on Mondays too, right?
Huh?
Have they been? You've been having the Monday meetings, right? Yeah.
Yeah, every Monday, yeah. So, and that's about it, unless, were you there this week? I wasn't there, yeah. Anything you want to help with? No. Oh,
Fine report.
okay, thank you, Lon. So that's the end of my report.
I just have one question for you because we were looking at going to, you're talking about going to Stockbridge? Is that where the trip is, to Stockbridge? Where, Is that where it is?
Yes.
There's a Christmas program in Stockbridge, and it's called Main Street Christmas, something like that, or Christmas on Main Street. Anyway, it's canceled this year, so I didn't know if that factored into any part of your trip, and if it doesn't, then we
No, I
should
don't
let
think
people know
so.
it's.
No.
No,
Okay.
it doesn't. It's
No. We're going to the
it's
lights.
the Salem Cross Inn for lunch.
Yeah.
We're doing the trip in conjunction with the
Yeah.
seniors.
Oh, okay.
The
Yankee
Yankee
Candle.
Candle, and then the Bright Nights at Forest Park in Springfield.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So-
thank you.
Good. Yeah, I was kind of surprised because it was outside, but that they canceled.
Yeah.
It didn't make any
It
sense.
depends
but,
on who's running it, I think. They panic.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
How-
it's been interesting. The trip's mostly full, I think.
Well, how about the trip to Boston?
And then, yeah, I've got a trip to Encore Casino the week before on the 2nd,
Yeah,
and I'm full at 38 at the moment, so.
yeah.
Wow.
But
Good.
we're masks are required on the bus, although it's optional. The casino said it's optional, but the casino's offering a $20 gambling credit, and it's $30 for the trip, so that's not too bad. It's a good deal, so,
Just take a trip to Boston.
yeah,
You'd have to take a cab into, the town, but it's still cheap,
yeah.
Matt, excuse me, I'm curious, does a person have to be vaccinated to ride that bus?
No, but everybody's got to wear a mask regardless of vaccination status,
Yeah.
and that's in accordance with federal law, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, next group, Rick, MYA.
Okay, thank you. We had a great fall season, as I believe I mentioned last time we met, with about 1,000 children playing sports. And I know for a fact that football and soccer had a couple of teams go on to playoffs and state championships. So very successful as far as we're concerned. And we presently have basketball about to kick off their season, thanks to the school district allowing us to use the buildings for the sport. And wrestling still has registration open. And their season will start in December, I believe. Basketball has about 450 kids playing, and wrestling has about 50. And we're always in need of volunteers. I know that's sounds like a broken record around here. And parents out there watching can get more information at themerrimackyouthassociation.com.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, and Rick, if you can just put in a plug for us for the parade, maybe some of those championship teams would
Yeah.
like to put a float in
Okay.
the parade.
Good thought.
Okay, next school committee, Shannon.
Yeah, so the school board, we're meeting again tomorrow night because we met on Monday and it was not on the agenda to take a position on mask usage, so we'll be meeting tomorrow night to do that. We are still in school, happy about that. We know that cases are on the rise and that is a challenge. We know the holidays are coming, the schools are, we are doing ventilation work, but obviously not all the work's been done, but we will be improving ventilation, but for now, it's getting cold, the windows get closed, and I think we're seeing some of the fallout from that, if I had to make a conclusion. We are between sports seasons, so all fall sports are concluded for our teams, and winter sports are starting up. And then budget season is upon us, so we just reviewed our capital improvement plan, first pass Monday night. And I will say that in a couple of years, you'll see we'll need to redo the high school floors for the gym because they're down to the nails. We can't stand it anymore. But there's nice wax over it, so no one's going to stub a toe. But we did, thanks to the trustees of the trust funds and the Master Cola fund that goes with it, the upper elementary school had the APR floors redone. So they're used for activities, lunch, the deliberative session, voting. It's basically the catch-all for our town. The Smith gym was also done, and so were the bleachers, which are now ADA compliant, which they were the classic wooden model from the day the building was built. They were beautiful, but they were not, I would say, as up to date as we like to be these days. So again, the trustees of the trust funds really came to the save the day on that one. So we did not have to ask the taxpayers for that money. It wasn't our CIP, and now they're removed. So that's great news. The one plug I will say, the one thing I wanted to say was the one disappointment we have is one of the trustees who's so good to us over the years was Jack Balcom. And he never really got to see that. He was there to, obviously, to authorize it, but did not get to see it to its fruition. But I know he was a great proponent of our schools and was a great champion of that idea. So just wanted to kind of give a plug to that, but and all the trustees, but especially Jack. So just wanted to bring that up. And as I said, we're also doing preliminary work. There's been some done for our new superintendent search because we are working with an interim leader right now. And stakeholder surveys were done. And we're obviously, we had surveys on our website for the community to weigh in on what they're looking for in the superintendent of schools. And we're working with a search firm to try to dig in and find a candidate that will take over permanently. So
Okay.
lots going on. I'm sure Rich can see it from the trenches, but we have a lot on our plate these days. So
All right. Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate that. Lon, Town Council.
Yeah, I'll try to be my usual short self. We're meeting tomorrow evening. We're meeting the first and third week in December, which is a change because of the holiday season. We'll be starting our budget deliberations in January as well as regular meetings. Thank you for the notes that I've taken that I can
Yep.
help us out at those deliberations. We're busy. The town's in good shape.
All right, great. We don't have a student rep yet. Do we have any ideas, heard from anybody who's interested? High school, maybe?
I would say at our last meeting, I understood that there was a student that was identified that might be of interest, but I hadn't heard anything more, so I didn't get my hands in it because I think someone else was speaking to them. So I didn't want to bombard the poor interim principal at the high school because we have a theme going. But on that note, if you need any help from the board, I'd be glad to make a couple calls to see if what we can do to get a rep back here.
I don't have an update to offer, unfortunately. I knew of a student that had expressed interest, but I haven't heard any more
Okay.
recently.
Okay.
But I'd be glad to make a call into the high school.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of pushing someone to the point of scaring them away or under a rock. But if you know somebody that might be interested, you could probably be persuasive.
I am a little persuasive, I'm not going to lie. But I think that I would also say that when it comes to a student rep, that's good for their college applications, those kind of things. So, community involvement is a huge, it's a huge plus on that. That be a sitting member of a board is really good. So anyone that's looking to leverage that and participate, as well, that's the one we want. And I mean, we were very lucky. We had Abigail Cody for
She
a
was
couple
great.
of years. And the thing is, if you look at, she's at WPI, she was, top of her class. So
Yeah.
funny how that worked.
So great, Shannon. That would
Yeah,
be
I'd be
great
glad
if
to
you could
ask.
take up the. Okay, wonderful.
You did.
Thank you, Maureen.
We'll get to work on the next one.
I know there's two more, right?
All right, so our next meeting, we're still going to have it on December 15th?
Well, so that's the question. December's always been kind of some years we meet, some years we don't meet, some years we just have like a holiday gathering. What's people's thoughts? We don't have any, at this point, we don't have any like Eagle Scout projects or anything like that in the works. My budget presentation to the council, I believe, is going to be probably January 20th. So it'll be after we meet again in January. So I'm happy to not meet.
We don't need to, is what you're saying.
Right. We do not need to unless people are so inclined.
Okay. Do we want to vote on this?
I
Move
move.
not to meet.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We
Right.
get to count Maureen now, so we got an 8.
There you go. And so then that means our next meeting will be January 19th. We are going to be back in here because the council will be meeting in the other room. So, so January we'll be back here.
Okay, and that appears to be the end of it.
So,
Any
motion
new
to
business?
adjourn? Oh, no, sorry, didn't do new business.
No public?
Nope. So motion
Okay,
to
motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn. I'll make that one.
Anyone second?
There you go.
Okay, Great. And all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, good job, Tracy.
Well, how about Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving,
yes.
Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Isn't there another?